Strange encounters often slip into our lives quietly. A conversation that leaves your chest tight, a smile that feels sharp beneath the surface. A person whose presence unsettles you long before your mind can explain why. These moments are not accidents, they are signals. In the Shaolin tradition, they are warnings that you may be standing before a human carrying destructive energy, not a creature of myth, but someone whose inner chaos spills into the world around them, bending clarity and poisoning peace in subtle ways. I speak today as a practitioner who has spent years studying the storms that rise inside the human heart. Demons, in our understanding, live not beneath the earth, but within human behavior. They twist perception. They cloud judgment. They steal the calm that your spirit works so hard to cultivate. Their presence is felt before it is understood, and recognizing them early is a form of self-protection that every person walking the path of inner discipline must learn. In this video, you will uncover 5 signs that reveal when you are dealing with such a person. These signs are not common knowledge, they are rooted in deeper teachings. How energy responds to intention, how stillness exposes truth, how the body senses danger long before words make sense of it. You will learn why certain individuals drain you without speaking, why some distort your thoughts with only a subtle gesture, and why others fear silence as if it were a mirror showing their true nature. Stay with me until the end. Each insight builds upon the last, guiding you toward sharper awareness and stronger personal boundaries. These lessons are not meant to frighten you, but to empower you, so that your path remains steady no matter who stands before you. Welcome to Heng Yi Chronicles. If you find wisdom here, consider subscribing and walking this journey with us. There is a quiet moment in every pathwalker's life when the body whispers something the mind refuses to hear. A faint tightening in the chest, a heaviness in the limbs, a subtle urge to step back, even when the person in front of you smiles politely. These sensations are not random, they are part of an ancient understanding. Every interaction either strengthens your life force or drains it. The Shaolin masters observed long ago that energy speaks its own language, one far older than words. When you meet someone whose presence leaves you mentally exhausted, spiritually flattened, or strangely hollow, you are not simply tired. You are encountering a person whose inner disorder spills into the space around them. Their voice may carry warmth, yet something beneath it feels cold. Their gestures might appear calm, yet the intention hidden behind them is clouded. Such individuals are not demons in the mythic sense, but their energy behaves like one, disruptive, consuming, hungry for attention rather than harmony. I have met people like this during my early training, individuals who held a quiet chaos inside them. They never shouted, never threatened, never showed darkness openly. Yet after speaking with them, I felt a dimming within myself, as though a small flame had been pressed down. It took years of discipline to understand that my body perceived their imbalance long before my thoughts attempted to analyze it. Shaolin wisdom teaches that the body is honest when the mind is confused. Your muscles tense before deceit is spoken. Your heartbeat shifts before danger enters the room. Your breath becomes shallow before conflict even begins. These signals are the guardians of your chi, alerting you to energy that seeks to disturb your inner equilibrium. When you learn to trust these early warnings, you step closer to true mastery, not by fighting such people, but by recognizing their nature and refusing to let your spirit be dimmed by their presence. There is a certain kind of person who never raises their voice yet manages to shake the foundations of your confidence. Their presence bends reality in small ways. A comment delivered with a soft tone but sharpened meaning. A glance that makes you second-guess a decision you were certain about only moments before. This is the nature of distortion, subtle, quiet, and deeply unsettling. In the old teachings, such energy was described as a fog that slips into the mind, blurring perception until you can no longer see your own worth clearly. During the early years of training, elders often spoke of this danger. They said the greatest threats are rarely the loud ones. They are the ones that disguise themselves as concern, as guidance, as companionship. These individuals twist your truth gently at first. They introduce doubt like a seed, and once it takes root, insecurity begins to grow from within. You start questioning your abilities, shrinking your voice, dimming your inner fire, without realizing that you are responding to someone else's imbalance, not your own flaws. Shaolin teachings place great emphasis on clarity of perception, not the clarity achieved through force, but the clarity that comes from stillness, breath, and the discipline of observing without reacting. When your inner world is steady, you notice distortion the moment it enters your space, a misplaced tone, a subtle manipulation, a suggestion that aims to restrict rather than uplift. These signs become unmistakable when your awareness is sharp. The truth is simple. Anyone who repeatedly makes you doubt your value is not guiding you. They are corroding you. This influence works slowly, feeding off confusion and emotional imbalance. To counter it, one must return to the root, reconnect with the quiet certainty that arises from disciplined practice. When you stand in that stillness, distortion can no longer twist your truth, and its power dissolves like smoke in open air. There is a fire that warms and a fire that destroys, and the difference between the two lies in discipline. Anger on its own is simply a force of nature. It rises like a storm inside the chest, announcing that something feels unjust, misaligned, or painful. In the ancient teachings, this emotion was never condemned. What mattered was whether a person could hold the flame without letting it burn everything around them. But there are those whose anger erupts without warning, sharp, chaotic, and aimed at anyone within reach. Their rage becomes a weapon, not a message, and its purpose is domination rather than resolution. I once witnessed such a person during training, someone whose temperament shifted like sudden thunder. A minor inconvenience, a word taken the wrong way, a perceived slight, each one was enough to ignite an outburst. There was no pause, no breath, no moment of introspection. The anger spilled out uncontained, leaving others walking on thin ground around them. It became clear that the problem was not the emotion itself. It was their complete lack of mastery over it. Shaolin philosophy teaches that emotional control begins long before anger appears. Through breathwork, stillness, and reflection, one learns to see the rising heat within and guide it rather than fear it. When anger is acknowledged with awareness, it becomes strength. But when it erupts without discipline, it reveals a person who has lost harmony with their inner world. Those who weaponize their fury carry a kind of destructive energy that unsettles everyone nearby. Their fire burns without direction because they have never looked inward long enough to understand its source. In this way, their rage becomes a sign, not of power, but of imbalance. A life ruled by unexamined emotion is like a house with an unlocked door. Anything can enter and anything can break. Recognizing this imbalance in others is part of protecting your own path, for a mind governed by chaos often seeks to pull others into the same storm. There is a quiet truth whispered across many ancient teachings. Fear is not merely an emotion, but a current of energy that moves through the body, shaping perception and influencing action. When fear rises, the breath shortens, the muscles tense, and the mind begins to anticipate danger even when none is present. In disciplined practice, this energy is studied, understood, and slowly dissolved. But there are people who recognize fear not as something to release, but as something they can use. They sense the hesitation in your voice, the tightening of your posture, the uncertainty in your choices, and they feed on it like a shadow following a flickering flame. I once met a person whose presence brought an odd chill, not because of anything they said outright, but because of what lingered between their words. They asked questions meant to provoke doubt, made comments carefully crafted to unsettle, and seemed quietly satisfied when others withdrew or softened themselves. Their strength did not come from wisdom or discipline, it came from watching those around them shrink. The elders would say that such a person lives through borrowed energy, taking confidence from others because they have none of their own. In the Shaolin path, fear is something to understand and eventually release. Through breath, grounding, and self-awareness, one learns to face it, transform it, and walk through it without becoming its prisoner. True strength emerges when fear loses its grip, when a person stands tall, even in uncertainty. That is why anyone who grows stronger as you grow smaller must be recognized for what they are. They pull others downward to elevate themselves, relying on the imbalance they create. Awareness protects you. When you feel yourself shrinking in someone's presence, when your inner space tightens for reasons you cannot explain, it is not just discomfort, it is information. It is your spirit signaling that you are in the presence of someone who does not wish for your liberation, but for your limitation. There is a moment in every seeker's journey when they encounter someone who never stands still in the truth. Their words shift like sand beneath the feet, their stories rearrange themselves depending on who is listening, and their mistakes always seem to belong to someone else. This pattern is not mere stubbornness, it is the signature of a mind trapped in ego, unable to look inward without flinching. In the old teachings, this refusal to face oneself was seen as the beginning of inner chaos, the slow unraveling of discipline that eventually spills outward into the lives of others. I once observed a man who carried this pattern wherever he went. When conflict arose, he pointed in every direction except his own heart. When his actions caused harm, he shaped a new version of events to protect his pride. At first, it appeared like simple denial, but with time it became clear that he lived in a self-created illusion, one built to keep discomfort away. The elders watched him closely, not with judgment, but with understanding. He had become a prisoner of his own narratives. Without the courage to acknowledge his missteps, he drifted further from balance, and his presence created disharmony wherever he stood. Shaolin teachings place great weight on humility and truth, not as moral ideals, but as tools of clarity. To admit fault is to clean the mirror of the mind. To take responsibility is to stabilize one's inner world. Without these practices, a person becomes unpredictable, ruled by shifting emotions and carried by the winds of ego. Such individuals rewrite reality to maintain the image they cling to, and in doing so, they unknowingly invite turmoil into their own life and the lives of those around them. When someone refuses discipline and accountability, they disconnect from the very foundation of self-mastery. They cannot grow, for growth requires honesty. They cannot find peace, for peace requires truth. And until they turn inward with sincerity, they remain vessels for chaos, drifting without anchor, influencing others with the instability they refuse to confront within themselves. There is a particular tension that settles into the air when someone's words and intentions drift in different directions. They speak softly, offering comfort or reassurance, yet something beneath their voice feels sharp, as if another truth hides behind the one being presented. In many traditions, this subtle mismatch is considered more dangerous than open hostility, for deception wears the mask of harmony while carrying the seed of harm. A person may promise peace, but their presence carries the weight of unspoken resentment. They may vow loyalty, yet their actions move in quiet betrayal. This disalignment between the inner world and the outer expression reveals a split within the spirit, a corruption that spreads silently. I once knew an individual whose behavior taught this lesson with striking clarity. He always spoke about unity, cooperation, shared purpose. His words were smooth, practiced, almost rehearsed. Yet whenever decisions were made or trust was required, he moved in the shadows of his own self-interest. He presented himself as a supporter, but his intentions traveled in the opposite direction. It was not his mistakes that caused harm, but the hidden motives he refused to acknowledge. The elders said that such a person walks with two faces, and eventually, the weight of wearing them both tears the soul apart. Shaolin meditation teaches that intention is the root of all action. When intention is sincere, the body moves cleanly, the voice speaks clearly, and the heart remains steady. But when the intention is split, the world around that person becomes unstable. Disalignment signals that the inner landscape is corrupted, and this corruption expresses itself through contradiction, gestures that contradict feelings, words that contradict truth, promises that contradict behavior. Recognizing this mismatch is part of protecting one's path. True mastery requires harmony between what one feels, what one says, and what one does. When this harmony is absent in another, their presence becomes a lesson and a warning, reminding us to trust not only what we hear, but what we sense beneath the surface. In the end, the figures we call human demons are simply people who have lost harmony within themselves, leaving their energy sharp enough to cut through the peace of others. The path of self-mastery teaches us not to fear them, but to recognize their patterns with clarity. When you stay grounded in your chi, when you honor your boundaries and trust the quiet signals of your body, their influence loses strength. Every day offers a chance to sharpen awareness, to steady the spirit, and to choose distance from anything that clouds your inner sky. Let these lessons guide you toward a life where your calm cannot be stolen and your clarity cannot be shaken. May your steps remain light, your mind steady, and your heart protected. If this message brought you value, I invite you to like the video and subscribe to Heng Yi Chronicles, where the journey of inner discipline continues.